So for the sake of time, I'm gonna tell my story in parts. And so the first part of my story is when I was almost 30. I became pregnant, and I remember telling my mom about it and showed her the sonogram and said, "Do you remember how to read one of these?" And she said, "Well, I think so." I said, "Well, where's the baby?" She said, "Well, it's either here or here." And I said, "Yes." I was having twins. And I was so giddy at the doctor's office. I giggled, I don't know how long, and just couldn't stop. And things were going pretty well. Had gone in for a doctor visit. It was my 24-week visit, so just starting to do the belly sonogram. Was excited. And when the nurse was checking things out, she said, "I can't see your cervix." So she checked again another way, and she said, "I still don't see your cervix." So they took me into one of the rooms, and we waited for the doctor. And the doctor said, "You are dilated 4 centimeters, and there's little feet kicking me." So I was a bit freaked out, needless to say. I was only 24 weeks along, and twins go to about 36. Other babies can go to 40 or sometimes more. And so they wheeled me across the sky bridge to the hospital and did all kinds of weird things to me, gave me weird drugs and things to try to slow down the contractions. Then they told me that they found an infection. So we had a decision to make. If they gave me antibiotics for the infection, then there was a good chance that it could kill the babies and that I might not be able to have children again. And the other choice was to have them early at 24 weeks. And there was another doctor there who had asked if we wanted the statistics, and I said yes. And we hadn't yet gone on the tour of the hospital to find out anything about the NICU. And she said, "Well, at 24 weeks, the statistics are 50% survival rate." So in my mind, I'm thinking, great, that means only one of my babies is going to live. Fast forward, they wheeled me into the labor and delivery room, and it didn't take very long, I don't think, and there was a baby cry, and I was surprised, and I started crying because I thought my babies were going to be dead, that I was going to have a miscarriage. And so that was amazing to hear that. And then there was another baby cry. We were told shortly thereafter, once the drugs had worn off, that they had to be intubated, which is, a tube being stuck down their throat. So that cry was the only cry we would hear until they were recovered full baby size. And we quickly learned the ways, the ins and the outs of going to the NICU, and we're going there every day. My babies came, it was the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And on Christmas Eve, I was at my in-laws' house, and they called and they said, "There's issues with one of your girls, and they seem similar to a problem that we see sometimes, but she's not showing all the symptoms of it, so we're not sure what to think about that. And then they called back again later, and they said, we really think her only choice is to have surgery, because we need to know what's going on with her and if she does indeed have this disease. So this was somewhere around maybe midnight, 1 o'clock, Christmas morning. And the doctor on call that evening was actually the one that was considered the most optimistic of the NICU doctors. So I had an alarm go off, and I went ahead and told the rest of my story, and then realized that it was cut off. So I'll piece it together. So the doctor spoke to my husband, and he had been considered the optimistic doctor of the doctors, or at least one of the most, if not the most optimistic of the NICU doctors. And he had told him that he had seen parents who, when they have tough decisions to make with their babies in the NICU, that they tend to keep the babies alive even though it's a horrible existence for the child. And in his opinion, that was very cruel to do, and just to keep that in mind when making decisions. So they let us into the NICU, into the back, and there was a room that they had just been using for storage, but it happened to have a sofa and a chair, a couple of chairs, and it was me and my husband and my mom and his parents, and they had said that we were allowed to have a pastor. So I called our music pastor and his wife, because they had a child who had been in and out of hospitals a lot because of kidney issues, and I really felt like I connected with them for many reasons. I was also in choir, and so we called them, and they came right away. And shortly after they got there, the surgeon came in. He said, we opened her up, and turns out that 75% of her small intestine is dead. We thought there would be no viable gut when we looked at the x-rays, but most of it is gone, 75%, and through halfway into the large intestine is also dead. And we could try to piece her together, but the odds of her living, surviving, definitely not thriving, it's very, very small that she would ever make it. Best case scenario, she might be on what they call TPN, but while it's like an IV, it keeps you alive, it also poisons you, and you would die of liver failure by the time you're 2. So the options are very bleak. We can sew her up and you can say goodbye, or we can try to do what we can and piece her back together and take it from there. So he said we had 5 minutes to decide, because she's laying there on the operating table. And he shut the door, and I broke down, and I started pleading with my husband, and I said, I cannot take my baby's life. I can't do it. I said, if God chooses to take her, then I will figure out how to be okay with it, but I cannot do it. And our pastor prayed for us, and we told them we would like to try and save her. And as I'm going to tell the story in pieces, I will fast forward, and I have 2 beautiful daughters, and they turn 15 this coming November.